Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by listeners like you, so head over to patreon.com/simpleelectronics to support the show. More about that later. So today I've got a very special guest, Carl the Pumpkin Man. How are you, Carl?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's a lovely, 8:17 a.m. here in Japan. So, bright and early. Hopefully I'll don't sound too sleepy.
Well, I'm still getting over a cold, so I think between you and I, we're gonna fall somewhere in the middle between sleepy and sick, basically.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got a filter for that, right? You can just edit that out, the grogginess? No?
I wish. Probably run it through some AI software, probably.
That's around everywhere. That's certainly a topic to talk about. Oh, God.
Absolutely. So before we get into all that, though, so I actually found you on Blue Sky, or did you find me? Someone found someone on Blue Sky, and your work caught my eye because you were posting these 3D printed Pokeballs and coins recently. So maybe you can explain to everyone, who you are and what you do.
Okay, so starting out, I grew up in Michigan in the United States. And then I attended Michigan State University, and I actually started out by studying agriculture education because I took a lot of agriculture classes in high school. But at a certain point in college, I realized that was not for me. I very much did like the education part of it. So then I switched to my minor, which was Japanese. And I graduated with a degree in Japanese education during the pandemic. And at that point, I had never been to Japan because of the pandemic. I hadn't been able to study abroad. So I went and applied to teach English here in Japan, got the job. That was 2.5 years ago, and I've been here ever since. So I actually have absolutely zero formal education in making things, in 3D printing, in designing, or any of that. The closest thing I got was taking wood shop in middle school. So what I do now is I make silly videos on YouTube about 3D printed models. And as you said, I'm making these Pokeballs and Pokemon coins. I was a big fan of Pokemon ever since I was a kid, but I feel like the games have definitely fallen off in quality. So basically, I just kind of interact with it as someone who's nostalgic about the characters. So one thing that I wanted to do to keep myself consistent and to make YouTube videos about something consistent to try to hit a niche was to make every single Pokeball design from the games. And there's 28 of them. I've got, as of recording, 8 of them up now. Number 9's on the way. But basically, what I was doing is challenging myself, I want to say. And that's how I learned to do 3D printing and tinkering and stuff like that. Is I pick a small goal and I say, that sounds like something that I can't do right now, but if I watch enough YouTube videos and I ask enough questions, I'll probably get to a place where I can do it. So basically what I wanted to do was make a Pokeball that could open if you press the button, but the rule was I couldn't have a hinge on the outside because I really like the design of the Pokeballs, and I really hate it when there's a giant, ugly hinge on all the toys you see on the outside. I set out to do that, but not only that, I tried to make it so that I could open it, or it would open without any special things that you couldn't find lying around the house. So no special size springs, no embedded magnets, nothing like that. And I limited myself to glue and rubber bands. And I don't know if you're too familiar with rubber bands, but they're not very good at pushing things. They're usually good at pulling things closed. So that was certainly a challenge to try to figure out a mechanism to open a Pokeball from the inside using only rubber bands. But I managed to do it, and I made it into this easy to edit base so that everyone and myself can make their own designs. And that kind of segues into what my channel is about broadly. And that is the fact that I have no formal training with 3D printers with this kind of technology, but I still am able to interact with it and use it and make things with it. So one thing that I really want to do is encourage other people to go down that same path. That there's this huge daunting thing of like 3D modeling software and 3D printers and which one should I buy and which one do I need and how do I level a print bed and, what do I do if it's not working or how do I fix it and all these, you have to deal with the 3D modeling software and the slicing software and any other quirks that the printer itself has. It's a really daunting task. And when you're trying to go from 0 to 100, it's nearly impossible. And I found that it's much easier if other people are there to help you get there one step of the way. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the models that I make. Like the Pokeball is something that anyone can make with the stuff that they have around their house if they just 3D print the files. And I went so far as to make a whole long video explaining on how you can download the file yourself and just edit the outside to make your own custom Pokeball that uses the mechanism I made to basically make your own design that is functional the way my design is.
So there was a lot to touch on there. So let me just back up, which is fine. Let me just back up a little bit. So for people who don't know, Pokemon is a franchise. Both manga, which is basically Japanese comic books, and a TV show and video games. And the deal is Pokemon are pocket monsters. They live inside these balls when they're tamed by their owners, essentially. And the ball is like big, a little bit bigger than palm size, like maybe softball size. Would you agree about softball size?
Around there, yeah. So mine are 10 centimeters in diameter.
Okay, and for the Americans in the audience, are roughly 4 inches in diameter?
Something like that.
That
I
makes
don't know.
sense. Yeah.
I said the inches a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. But, I do have some listeners in the U.S., Liberia, and Myanmar, and you kind of have to cater to them too.
Oh, nice.
So. So about like 4 inches, 10 centimeters in diameter. And then, so if you think about this in terms of 3D printing, I just want to be very clear that this is already impressive because 3D modeling things on the outside of a sphere is not easy. But then you've got a sphere that is now chopped in half, you get 2 hemispheres. Yeah. It's pretty cool that I got to use that in the proper sense. And then Carl's designed an internal hinge and a push button release to open it. So you push the button and it automatically opens. And then a step further, he has designed a base design, just a plain one that people can go and modify on their own. So you did tell your story. I just wanted to emphasize how impressive it is to have done so many steps without any formal training. I mean, this channel is all about, people who don't have formal training for the most part, but
simple electronics.
Yeah, exactly. But it feels like you've achieved quite a bit in a short amount of time here, if I can sort of put words in your mouth.
Well, I started in college, and so it's been, 6 or 7 years maybe since I got my first 3D printer. I originally got one because, I'm a big fan of, like I said, Pokemon, right? Originally a video game. And also a big fan of Nintendo in general. And Nintendo released this thing called Nintendo Labo. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I'll let you explain it, but just to make sure I know what you're talking about, it's the cardboard accessories for the Switch, right?
Yeah. So basically the Switch has 2 controllers that click on the side, right? The Joy-Cons. And into the Joy-Cons is a lot of technology is actually, shoved in there. So there's like a bunch of rumble motors that can be used to simulate like different feelings, like something rattling around in the box, or it can be used to like vibrate and move a cardboard bug design or whatever. But basically, using the technology in the Joy-Cons, they've made kits where you can design or you can make step-by-step cardboard things like a piano or a fishing rod or something like that, and that interacts with the controllers and the actual system itself to do things in the game. Like, for example, there's an IR camera on one of the Joy-Cons, and you make a cardboard piano and you put reflective tape on the back of piano keys, and the IR camera looks at this blank piece of cardboard, but when you press a piano key, it levers up and lifts the back up, and then there's the piece of reflective tape on there, so it shows that to the IR camera. The IR camera recognizes the position of that key, and it tells the Switch, hey, play this tone through the speakers. Now, as you can imagine, if you're making things out of cardboard, they don't really last very long. And so I thought, you know what? I don't know anything about 3D printers, but this thing looks really, really cool. It looks like something I would love to make. I would love to design 3D printable replacement parts for this. And that's how I got into it. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, took a lot of notes, and I finally bought my first printer, which was a TiVo Tornado, which I don't know how many people have even heard of, but it was cheap and it worked technically. I was able to 3D print things. Ironically, I never actually made any Nintendo Labo replacement parts, but it just kind of set me on that whole path of just, I decided I wanted to do it, and so I did.
So let's start from the very beginning then. So when you decided you wanted to try 3D modeling, what was your software of choice?
So I looked around for something that I didn't want to use, like Tinkercad or something, because it wasn't parametric. I knew that if I was going to make something, I'm not the most artistic of people in terms of like having a vision and executing it. I like to see something and then tinker with it until I've guided it into where it needs to be. So I settled on Fusion 360 back in the day, because they had a student license, which I could use despite the fact that I was not actually a student in any sort of 3D modeling. And then they also have a hobby license, which is free. It's restrictive, but free. So that's the big thing. I use Fusion just because it's a parametric system that has a free, license that I've been able to get used to.
So I'm actually a little bit, I would say, I mean, if I could put it in different words, I'm a little bit addicted to Fusion 360 because it really does work the way that my brain works. However, on this channel, I'm a big proponent of open source software. So I don't know if you're aware of a software called FreeCAD.
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I've never taken around with it.
So FreeCAD does not work the way my brain works. It's very sort of regressive in its controls, in my opinion. However, they just released FreeCAD version 1.0, so finally a legitimate release. This is all like volunteer. I believe it's all volunteer coders that put it together, so it's very impressive in its own right. But apparently now you can set the control scheme to be very similar to Fusion 360. You can set it to work very similar to Fusion 360. So I'm pretty excited to give that a shot, although I'm a little bit hesitant because Fusion and we get along so well. I just really love open source projects. So I was wondering if, I could tempt you to try FreeCAD and see if you like it in the upcoming year or so. Maybe just give it a shot, because I think open source projects are amazing, and we need open source projects to continue. So I'm going to give it a shot. You don't have to commit, but just think about it.
I assume it is free.
Yep, 100% free.
Okay, yeah.
Free and open source.
I'm like 90% satisfied with Fusion. There's a couple things that like frustrate me. Sometimes it just kind of bugs out. Like the most frustrating thing I posted about on Blue Sky, a few days ago, where you do split body using this line, blah 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 blah, and then it shows you we will split the body just like this. And you're like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. And then you hit OK, and then it just says, compute failed. And you're like, you just showed me exactly what you were going to do, and it was perfect. What? Just do the thing that you showed me, right?
Yeah,
I don't
very
know how
frustrating.
often you run into that. Yeah. And then the error messages are always like, compute failed, or, something went wrong. And it's like, okay, but your computer, you should know where it went wrong. At least, you can tell me that yeah, I didn't select something or whatnot. Tell me what's wrong. Oh, there's something wrong somewhere. And the other thing that I want is to be able to like emboss a design or punch holes in a sphere for obvious reasons. Like I'm making Pokeballs, right? And if I've made a couple custom ones, I made I with permission, I took someone else's design for a Gengar, which is Ghost Pokemon, and I took his Pokeball that couldn't open, and I meshed it onto my Pokeball that can open. So now I have basically that creator's Pokeball design, but now it can open. And I also made one where I took the moon. NASA has a model of the moon, and I did that. I made, if you look at my icon on most social medias, that's a pumpkin Pokeball. That's my design. But if I want to punch a hole in it, like maybe I want to make a honeycomb design in the shape of a sphere, and I want it to like distort such that it fits on a sphere. Fusion can't do that, I've noticed. You can emboss designs on like a cylinder, but as far as I know, there's no way to do anything to like a doubly curved surface like a sphere. And I feel like that would be something that should be doable, but you just can't.
I mean, I feel like there's math for it, right? So if there's math for it, there should be, it should work. But I don't know. I find my big hang up with Fusion is that if I use too many polygons, like if I try to chokes. Like if I try to make
chokes.
Like let's say a 100 mil circle, and I try to cut hexagons, which are the bestagons, out of them.
KCGP grade.
Yeah. If there's too many hexagons, the software it's almost as if it's working in the cloud, because my CPU here is at like 80% or 70%, but the software is just like chugging along and it can't do it. And when I complained about it on the support forums, the people were like, well, it's not working on the cloud, it's working on your PC. So I'm like, how come my utilization is not at 100% and it's still choking? Like something is wrong. And like my design with 6 times 6 lines multiplied by probably 100 or whatever hexagons cannot be the upper limit of what people use Fusion for. That doesn't make sense, right? So that's my hang up with it, is that it feels like, for a very expensive product, poorly optimized.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm using the hobby free version and whatnot. I had that same problem, but with NASA's model of the moon. And obviously that's like actually a big 3D model, but I'm like, I don't really want you to do anything with the polygons that are there. I don't want you to like mess with the, mesh or cut it in half. I just need to cut like a circle out of the center. But still, it was just choking, And I'm like, there was one thing that I wanted to do where I said, take the moon and, reverse combine it, like cut combine out of a stand, so I can make a stand that fits the moon. That's a custom fit for the moon there. And it was just like, nah, we can't do that. I'm like, you take your time. Like, I don't care if it takes you an hour to do it. This is the last step. Just do it. And they're like, nah, we can't. It's too heavy. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, it's weird, huh? Like it almost feels like back in the day, I played a lot of, when I was in high school, I played a lot of Diablo 2. Apparently, they couldn't change certain aspects of the game because they had updated it, like Blizzard had updated it from patch to patch to patch, to a point where it's like they essentially said the code is like spaghetti. And so it almost feels like Fusion 360 is running on deprecated spaghetti code. It needs to be refactored.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I've started so many projects from the ground up again in Fusion. Maybe they should start Fusion from the ground up.
And like, obviously I'm not complaining about the fact that it's, because there is some free there's free license you can use for hobbyists and startups, and I appreciate that. But when you see these bugs when you're using the free version, that doesn't make you want to spend $3,000 a year on the professional version. You are correct, right? So it's a little weird. And then you look at FreeCAD, which is an extremely nice piece of software, which costs absolutely nothing. And
Yeah.
now I can't obviously comment on it. I haven't had the chance to play with it. I picked up a college contract, so I've been busy like crazy. But it's made by enthusiasts. I mean, even if it's half as good as Fusion, shouldn't that make, Autodesk worry about the quality of their software?
Yeah, because that's kind of the thing with software. It's like it's there's no material costs to make a new one, right? Not that I'm saying it costs Autodesk nothing to maintain it and come out with new features, and of course you need to have staff with customer support and troubleshooting and whatnot. But it does feel weird that they have this very expensive, comparatively to like a hobbyist, license every year. It kind of makes me wonder where the money goes.
Shareholders.
Again, I have no idea.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. I have no idea. Like, it could very well be that someone says, "Oh, by the way, this is something that they also do that this pays for," and I go, "Oh, okay." But it does feels like, "Oh, well, we got the professional software and you don't, so pay up if you want to use it."
Yeah, and again,
Basically.
not complaining.
Premium.
I mean, it's a great piece of software. I wouldn't be able to code. Even I wouldn't be able to make the code to make the background white. Like I have no idea. But all I know is if I was hired at an engineering firm and they're like, "Hey, which piece of software should we design, cars with?" I wouldn't immediately say Fusion, because if it breaks down with a couple polygons, how are you going to design an entire car assembly in there? Just food for thought. I'm not
Works
complaining.
great for my purposes, but yeah, I don't know if I were to scale up to something like really complicated and with multiple teams of people working on multiple objects and whatnot, multiple components collaborating. I don't know how it would handle that at all.
So let's talk about something we do know then. So I'm looking at your hinge design here, and I'll say that is a really elegant design. I'm going to try to paint a word picture, and you can tell me if I got it wrong here. But essentially, it's a rubber band, which is looks like it's twisted over two posts, and then you've got a third post that goes into the middle of one of the sides. And when you close the ball, it pushes downwards. It puts tension on the rubber band. And then I'm assuming, well, I see you have a latch in the front. And so the latch, I'm not sure what holds the latch in the closed position, but you can explain that very shortly. But you open it, and then the rubber band pushes up. So it's a very elegant design, and it's very few pieces. Can you tell us how you came to that solution?
So I was trying to think, okay, how does one open something with a rubber band, right? Because rubber bands famously, they hold things together. They hold things closed, right? You wrap the rubber band around the outside of the ball, it holds it closed, which is not helpful to what I want. But then I imagined if you think like a PVC pipe and you wrap a balloon over it, right? A balloon is made of like rubber, it's elastic. And you take a smaller PVC pipe and you push it into the pipe through the into the elastic balloon that you have stretched over the hole of the PVC pipe, and then you let it go, it's going to shoot out, right? If that makes sense. So instead of an elastic balloon, it's just a rubber band. That's basically how I thought about it. So there's just, a rubber band stretched between two posts so that when you push down on it, it pushes back and pushes it open. And then the latch mechanism is such that basically, if you imagine that same PVC pipe, but instead of pushing a pipe in from the outside, you put the pipe inside, and the pipe you put inside is longer. If you try to push that pipe all the way through the bigger pipe, the balloon will push back on it, push it back out, I guess. So essentially, you push the button in, there's a rubber band holding onto it that's attached to the inside of the mechanism that pulls it back to its out position. I don't know if I managed to word salad that.
I mean, I think I get it.
Yeah. So basically, you push it, and there's a rubber band that's stretched across it, and the rubber band is stretched when you push it. So the rubber band, when you let go, pushes it back in. And then there's actually a third problem not related to rubber band. And that's if you want something to open with a hinge, if you use a typical hinge that you look at like on a door, right? If you look at any standard door hinge, the hinge is always visible on the outside of the door, like in the side of the door opens.
Yep.
So that's a problem when your goal is to make a smooth design that has no visible hinge on the outside. So geometrically speaking, if I understand this correctly, you cannot have just a normal pin door hinge that is on the inside, because if you try to put it on the inside, it will intersect itself. It would have to phase through itself in order to open.
Yeah, you would need two levers. You can't.
Correct.
You wouldn't be able to open beyond flat, essentially.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I had to do. So that there's actually three like rigid moving parts in the setup. There's actually a small hinge in the center, which what it does is it allows the two halves to slide out from each other. So to like open up like a capsule, which just a little bit, just a half an inch or so. It's a centimeter, a little bit or so. And then it also has prongs on either side, which allows it to swing open. And anyone that's having a hard time visualize this, feel free to check out my YouTube. I've got a long video which goes in through the entire project of all of this, including how it actually works. But yeah, that was also interesting to figure out, because figuring out how to do it, not only how to make it or physically, but something that is small enough so that's not obstructive, but big enough that it doesn't just snap when you try to put it together. And that's one thing that I thought I had a good balance. Some people, when they make my designs, say, "Oh, it was a little too fragile." I don't know what the difference is between how they're doing it and how I'm doing it, but I went through a lot of designs of trying to make something that was small enough to fit in, so it didn't obstruct the inside, because if I can, I want to have it so you can put things inside of it. Like that's the whole point of a Pokeball, while still making it large enough that it doesn't snap under its own power, basically.
So I'm looking. While you've been talking, I've just been staring at the 3D models on printables, which, by the way, is going to be linked down in the description if anybody wants to go check out the models. And I've been trying to piece it together, because you do have a nice photo of the back hinge, but the rubber band is over it, so I can't see where the pieces go. But I think I've got it figured out now.
It should be a PDF file of assembly instructions.
Oh, that's possible.
Well. It should have some better, yeah.
I'm not particularly.
And the video, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not great at printables. I'm just so reluctant to like make accounts and stuff. So I just joined recently, but what I'm getting at is I think I'm seeing some small geometry where the pins, like the hinge is like let's say a rectangle with two pins on one side and two pins on the other side, and these pins seem to squeeze together and go into the two halves, and that makes like essentially a double pinned hinge. So essentially like making the two arms that would need for it to open. So this is very small geometry.
I was surprised it didn't snap.
Are you able to print this on something as primitive as a TiVo Tornado, or do you really need your Bambu Labs machine for it to work?
You can do it. I printed my first one on my Ender 3 Max. Okay. So if you have a 0.4 nozzle, like it's fine. Like you can do it. It's not super in depth. Like you just need to make a little bit more care with that piece so that you don't have any first layer defects. Because if you have a first layer defect where one of the pins is a little peeling up and it doesn't print, well, obviously like that's the entire hinge. But I was surprised to see how sturdy it was just with normal PLA. If you obviously it's not super robust. If you were to take it and you could easily snap it with your hands.
Well, it's plastic.
Yeah. If you just like grab one half of the right hand and one and the bottom of the left hand, you just bent it like a stick, you could snap it really easily. And that's kind of one of the biggest things that if I could redesign it more was be either make a sturdier design and or B, make it so that you can replace the hinge more easily. Because you put that hinge in and then you glue in the rubber band assembly, and that kind of like blocks it in. And so if it snaps, you would have to peel out the things that you glued in. But yeah, it's doable on really any 3D printer that you can get your hands on, I would imagine.
That's
Um,
awesome. And even just in
yeah.
PLA, like you were saying, like, do you recommend that people use a higher strength filament, like maybe a PETG, which is a little bit more flexible, or an ABS, which is a little bit stronger, or are most people just doing it in PLA?
Yeah, I assume most people are doing it in PLA. I'm going to be very honest. I have never printed it anything other than normal strength PLA. I do have some ABS on the way to print some spools. As I learned the hard way, if you put PLA in the filament dryer, its glass transition temperature is low enough. So basically, it won't melt, but it does get flexible,
Gets
and so it will
bendy.
droop.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I do have some, and I've got another model on the way of like, it's a regular spool, but it has this ridge around the outside where you can print a color of whatever filament the roll is made of, and then fit that little ring into the ridge on the side. So that way you can see at a glance from every angle, like what color is on that spool, which is not super handy, but I think it's cool. And that one's specifically for Bambu Lab spools. I get a lot of stuff through them because their rewards program is pretty good. And it's cheaper if you buy it without the spool. So if you can just print a spool for cheaper than this, what you save or what you would pay to buy it with a spool, then it's worth it. So that's what I've been doing.
So you haven't printed with ABS yet. I'm assuming that your current printer is enclosed then.
Yeah, I have an X1 carpet. So
Ooh la la.
I put a lot of thought. Well, because what happened was I've owned 4 printers throughout my life. TiVo Tornado, first one. I learned a very valuable, simple electronics thing where what TiVo the Tornado had a design flaw in which the wire to the heated bed was not secured. So it would bend ever so slightly. It's a bed slinger. It would bend ever so slightly every single time it would move back and forth, which is fine, except if you're using it for months, which it means it has a back and forth motion thousands upon thousands of times, which means that the cord, the wire snapped inside the insulation.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah. So what I did was, I was like, okay, well, the heated bed's not working. Like I really need that. And what I did was, I'm in my college dorm room. I unplug everything, don't want to work on anything live. And I shined a really strong light through it, and I could see that there was a break in the wire. So I stripped it, and I was like, well, I don't have a soldering iron. And so what I did was, and folks, don't do this. I'm not an expert in electronics, but this is very stupid. Instead of just buying one off of Amazon and waiting, I tangled the wire together. Like I twisted it together, crimped it, okay, and I super glued the ends together. Theoretically, if the contacts are together, then it's fine. But the super glue got, I guess, in between the wires and made a little bit of insulation in between the wires. And so when I turned it on the next time, the fuse exploded. Luckily, there was a fuse to keep me, safe. And then like it started smoking. So, I yanked the cord from the wall, and I was like, oh, please don't catch on fire. I'm in my dorm room. I don't want to have to explain this, why I have a 3D printer in my dorm. So that was hosed.
Yeah,
And
hair
so,
raising, huh?
yeah, I was like, what? I'm like, I'm an idiot, And I try to be good about safety, but anyway, I got another TiVo Tornado for like Christmas, I think. Like a few of my family members all got together and said, "Here, this is our one Christmas present, collectively to you." And I said, "Thank you." So I did that. And then once moving here, I got an Ender 3 Max Neo. Because I like the big build plate. It's 30 centimeters, which is about a foot square. So I did that, but the print quality went down real awful. Like I printed a benchy and it was just stringing there, and I had no idea what was going on. I saw a Maker's Muse video saying that if your Bowden tube wasn't inserted all the way correctly so that the filament had a clear path to the hot end there, then that could happen. But I tried fixing that, didn't do it. And I don't know if this is related, but I realized when I touched one of the sharp clips with my knuckle, it felt tingly.
Oh.
And I have a multimeter. I'm not the biggest electronics guy, but I took one probe and I put it in touched it to the place where it was felt tingly. And I took the other probe and I put it to neutral. And was it neutral or ground? Frick. I think I did both. One of them registered a current.
Oh, that's not good.
So that's not good. So presumably there was a short somewhere in my machine that was making the frame itself live. So I unplugged it and I put it in my closet and I said, I've been here before. I've been here with electronics messing up. I'm not going to be doing this again. So I, called a bunch of my family members and I'm thinking of just going all in. Like if I'm going to be doing this YouTube thing and, here in Japan, I mentioned it before the podcast, but I live on a remote island and there's not a lot of stuff to go out and do. So you kind of have to make your own fun. So I was like, screw it. You know what? It might take an entire paycheck, a month of my salary, but I went ahead and bought the X1 Carbon from Bambu Lab, and it has been very good to me since. So that's good. So that's what my main machine right now with the AMS. So that's been nice because I don't really like tinkering with my 3D printers. I'd see it as a tool to get me somewhere else. I don't like having to constantly fix it and wonder what's going on and make replacements and whatnot. So that's awesome. But there was something that you were talking about earlier that is not awesome about Bambu Lab. Did you want to bring that up?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to ask you if your opinion of Bambu Labs changed. So for those that are not following the controversy, and I don't know all of the controversy, but Bambu Labs is essentially, well, in my opinion, and you can correct me, I'll give you the chance to answer, so you can correct me anything you disagree with. But as far as I understand, Bambu Lab is sort of positioning themselves as the appliance 3D printer. Like they're supposed to be the quote unquote tinker free 3D printer company. And inside most of their higher end 3D printers, there's a camera, there's a bunch of sensors that connect to Wi-Fi, and they have an app and they have a slicer, and all these things work really well together. But a lot of people in the 3D printer community, they like the tools that they already use. So they could use, third-party slicers. They could run the Bambu Labs completely offline, and they could send files from their favorite slicers to the machine. Well, Bambu Labs recently said, well, for security reasons, we don't want to just let anybody access the camera in the machine. So therefore, to protect you, we're cutting off access for all other slicers except for our own, the Bambu Studio, I think it's called.
Bambu Studio, yeah.
And going forward, nobody gets access to the API. You have to use our slicer. Now, they've since walked that back a little bit, but I think the damage has been done. So what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, the sad thing is I used to explain Bambu Lab to people who maybe were not familiar with the 3D printing space as imagine other printers being Android and Bambu Labs is Apple, in that it has its own kind of enclosed ecosystem is what they call it. But I used to say, except Bambu Lab is more open to other third-party things coming in. Right, Apple is kind of infamous for, we're going to change away from USB-C, so you have to use our chargers for no good reason. But now I'm kind of like, all right, well, it's seeming like less and less I can make this claim. It's seeming like I can't really say, oh, but they're nicer about it. That they let you do your own things. Because yeah, they're claiming that, and I read through it, and I don't have a quite a grasp of exactly what would be banned and what they're not doing, what they are doing. I know, like you said, they walked it back and said like, oh, we're still making, like, we still want it so that, people can use their Orca slicer and whatnot. So I'm not sure what their official stance is on that, but it's just kind of disheartening that they have this ecosystem that is very friendly to efficiency if you use it, because even if you use Maker World, the website, which I do a lot, they have where you can download pre-made print profiles in Bambu Studio. So you can basically just say in the app even, hey, print this. And you can just press like one button and confirm, and then go, assign what filament you want to use, and then just print it. Like it has pre-made G codes and everything for Bambu printers, which is awesome. But with great power comes great responsibility. When you have this entire ecosystem that people can rely on and you have power over it, you need to be good to your user base.
Definitely.
And I think I think I'm hoping a lot of the blowback will get them to correct course big time and stay on the correct course. But again, it's one of those things where it's like I said before, I dropped an entire month's salary on my printer. I can't just, okay, well, I'll just go get a different one. I can't do that. I saved up a lot for this one. So it is kind of icky, I feel like, that there's this kind of unspoken promise between the users and the company, and Bambu Lab seems like at this point in time that they're kind of breaking that promise.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. But
yeah,
you know what the sad part is? What's the competition? Like if my mother wanted to start 3D printing, what would I recommend to her that is not a Bambu Labs? I mean, even I would argue that the Prusa machines being, I believe, the other staple of quality, they're still very maker focused. They're not an appliance. You cannot unbox a Prusa, put it on your desk, and hit go. It just doesn't work like that. And Bambu Labs kind of is. So sadly, at this point, I'm very happy with myself. And the only reason I am is because I've been going back and forth. I don't know if you're aware of the Voron project.
I've been hearing whispers.
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
So Voron is not a printer. Voron is a team, and it's a design. And essentially, it's a bunch of engineers got together and designed a couple of 3D printers that you can't buy. But the designs are open source and public. And so anybody can assemble all the parts in the bill of materials and sell you a kit, and then you put it together with the Voron instructions. So
gotcha.
I've been infatuated by the design. Like if you ever have the chance in the future, look up the Voron 2.4. That is an incredible machine. It has a flying. It's a Core XY like the Bambu Labs, except the gantry is flying. So that means each of the four corners are suspended by belts, and it can adjust dynamically the each corner so that the corner heights are like exactly right. And the bed is a giant slab of aluminum at the bottom of the machine. And so that bed doesn't change shape. It doesn't change size. It stays flat, all that kind of stuff. It's an incredible machine. But here in Canada,
wild.
Yeah, it's incredible. Here in Canada, it's roughly $1,500 to source a machine that'll do that, a Voron 2.4 that'll be 350 mils by 350 mils by 350 mils of volume.
Respect. Oh, I love big. That's the only thing I don't like about my X1 is that, I mean, past other controversies not included, but Yeah, it's 256
It's yeah.
millimeters. It's a little smaller than what I used to have, so I can't print a sheet of. One thing I did was I printed a binder page for. I collect Pokemon coins, and it turns out you really shouldn't be printing binder pages for your Pokemon coins because they're also plastic, so they can get damaged when you put them in there.
Oh, I guess that
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, you should just use they have coin sleeves. That's what they recommend. You put it in a little OPP plastic sheet, and that's what I do now. But I could print an entire 8.5 by 11 American, size of paper for a binder. No, I can't do that. It's a little bit too small.
Boo.
Yeah. And it's like, ooh, could I print a full head mask in there? Like a Batman mask?
Oh, not
if
quite.
I wanted to. Yeah, it's not quite.
Yeah, so I was faced with a decision. If I have $1,500 to spend Canadian, the X1 Carbon is on sale typically for around $1,400 plus tax. So that ends up around just over the $1,500 mark. And so if I want to print in ABS, which the Vorons are sort of they're ABS machines. They can print ABS all day, every day. They're enclosed, all this stuff. I'm looking at $1,500 for a Voron, which will be bigger, but it literally takes like 30 hours to put together, 40 hours to put together. Or you just order a Bambu Labs, pull it out of the box, and it works. It's not quite the size I want, but I don't have to spend a week's worth of labor putting it together.
Or tinkering, yeah. Because that's the thing. Like I said, I've had 3 different printers in my lifetime, so obviously I'm not someone that is an authority on recommending printers. But everyone that I do, all the YouTubers that I do that I look up, they're just like, honestly, just get, if you're looking for a starting machine, get an A1 Mini.
Yep.
Because it's like, yeah, pull it out, put it on the desk, everything's set up, and that's cool. And it would also be great if it was as open source, if there's just an advanced mode. We were talking about OBS settings for recording software. It's very stripped down professional. But to a new streamer, it's kind of daunting because, there's all these buttons and whatnot. And if you don't know what they do, then you're kind of lost. But Bambu Lab was kind of the best of both worlds for a bit there because it was you could set it up and have it work out of the box, but you could still use other software. Not the best in terms of physical hardware upgrades, as they do have a lot of custom made stuff for their machines, but still,
yeah. No, I completely agree.
Sad that, yeah,
because so even the Voron, the deal with the Voron is it has a lot of 3D printed parts, so you need to be able to print an ABS before you can put together your Voron. However,
you need a printer for your printer.
Yeah, but they do have a program called the Print It Forward program, where people who have built their Vorons now manufacture parts for other people's Vorons type thing. Or they have a smaller machine called the Voron V0, which is like a tiny machine. It's I don't know, it's probably 10 inches by 10 inches by 14 inches tall. And the print volume... That's the whole machine. The print volume is I think it's 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, something like that.
It's a little baby.
Yeah, it's tiny. However, it is the exact size you need to print every single part of the 2.4. So it's meant to bootstrap yourself. So I built the V0. It was just over, I have to check on my live stream channel, but it's just over 30 hours of assembly. But then you have to do your own software setup, and since there is no Voron company, there's only people that put together parts for the Voron, and so you have to go and I have a gyro on the V0. Well, you have to go in software and you have to add the software for the gyro. It's not included in the base tune.
Okay.
So all of these things you have to do all yourself.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a tinkerer's printer.
It is.
Here.
It truly is. So if you want a Voron, I believe in you. I think you could do it. But
probably.
But if
it would take a lot.
Yeah, but if you're going from a Bambu to a Voron, it's going to be like a part-time job to put it together. So if
Yeah,
you
I already
wanted,
have a full-time job.
yeah, there you go.
And
So if you wanted like
you know,
an alternative to your bamboo, what are you going to
yeah,
get? Like there's nothing out there that is like the bamboo.
yeah. I mean, the other thing is like, I already have it, right? I already paid for it. It's and I don't have the space for another printer. I'm lucky enough that, well, I got this job as kind of an aside. I got this job through the JET program, the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. Basically, what they do is they interview people from English-speaking countries, and then they find school systems like that need an English teacher, and they interview people, say, hey, this guy's good, and then they talk to towns and prefectures, and they say, we got one for you. We got an English teacher for you. Here you go. And one of the things that they have to do through the JET program is they have to find you a place to live. Now, again, living in a remote island, luckily, I don't have to live in a tiny apartment like a lot of my fellow teachers across the country have to. I get my own separate house, which is cool. It's not a huge house, but for one person, it's great. But what that means is I don't have space for another printer. And I also don't know what I would do with my X1 Carbon if I wanted to switch, right? Like my old one's in my closet, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't even know how to dispose of it right now. Because yeah. So it's just another one of those things that makes the whole Bambu Lab thing more tragic, is like they had a really good thing going, and now a lot of people are kind of left high and dry.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it sucks because the hardware is good. The software, the embedded software, like the stuff that controls the actual printing, is good. It's just that the company seems to be letting people down. And I'm not saying anybody should switch. Like you should keep using your machine and be happy about it.
Do what you need to do. This is not a call to action, and
That's
you're
right.
a horrible person if you're using Bambu Lab. Like do what you need and what works for you.
It just
Please.
felt like Bambu Labs had the hobby by the balls, and they decided to play rough. I don't understand their position.
Yeah. They have the power, and they said, well, we might want to use that power a little bit. That's what it's looking like. And now, like, people are at an impasse where it's like, okay, do we pacify you? Do we appease you, or are we jumping ship? And a lot of people seem to be jumping ship. A lot of people who luckily are in the tinkering space have the ability and have the funds dedicated for this hobby of theirs or their actual profession to get other printers, which I'm really glad for the people that can do that. I'm just feeling for the people that losing access to things that they now have no way to access because they don't have the funds or the time or the space or the whatever to make the switch.
Yep. Well, let's talk about funds a little bit, because when I design 3D objects, when I design PCBs, when I design pretty much anything on my channel, I release my designs for free. They are public, they are free, they are open source. Me, myself, I do this because I believe, I'm a teacher, so I believe knowledge should be attainable, should be free. And I also do it because I'm a YouTuber, and the design is not the product. The video is the product. So those two reasons kind of like work together. But there are people that make a living, and make a damn good living, some of them, on selling 3D designs. And now just looking, and again, this is my own opinion, you can disagree if you want, just looking at your designs, they look like something that could bring you in a significant amount of money every year. Like, not, I don't think it'll be Jeff Bezos, but
Yeah, no,
it would
probably not
probably,
full time, but
yeah, but it would probably every month amount to, a non-negligible amount, because they are good quality. So why do you release your designs for free? Why is that important to you?
So there's three reasons. Now, two of them are exact same as yours. I'm a teacher as well. I teach English, but I think there's something very, very valuable in having free access to things for educational purposes. And a lot of my designs are intended for you to tinker with them. The Pokeball one, I released, a whole video detailing how to, in Fusion, edit your own design. No one has yet uploaded their own design. I would love for them to definitely do so and tag me via remix. I'd love to see it. But the reason I publish everything through a non-commercial remixable license is, one, I want people to do what they want with them. So all my models, you can download it, you can tinker with it, and then upload your own version of it as long as you give credit and you don't sell it. The second thing being, I am also a YouTuber. I am not nearly at all successful. I think I'm sitting at 300 some odd subscribers. But usually I make a little video to go along with whatever. I make a video tutorial of how to make it, and or a little skit or a little interesting video to go along with all of my models. And I cross post, right? That model, the video has a link to the model, and the model has a link to the video. So that's also why I do that. One of my most viewed videos is the one where I'm talking about my Pokeball project. And if you look at where people watch, the most viewed part is the part where I talk about how to put it together. So a lot of people are presumably coming from my Thingiverse or my printables or my Maker World and watching my YouTube videos, which I think is really cool. And then the third thing is, I'm not a professional. And even though a lot of the models are high quality, sometimes they come out not high quality, and then I get feedback, and then I fix them. There's one dice cauldron on printables. I believe it's called the dice cauldron, where it's a Halloween themed like cauldron where you put dice on these little trays and you press a lever, and then it throws the die into the cauldron and it comes out and rolls. So if you play a tabletop role-playing game or whatever, and you're a DM, you can use that to roll dice kind of quickly and or secretly. But I made that I modeled it in a day before I went on vacation because I wanted to enter it into the Dice Tower contest on printables. But I did it, and it was functional, it was fine, but it wasn't all that great. There were some problems with it, and someone was kind enough to write up like an entire essay, I think on printables. Might have been on Maker World, but I think on printables wrote up like an entire essay of what was wrong with it and how it needed to be fixed, or what kinds of things, which I really appreciated. Honestly, they were very respectful about it. So I went back and I took the time and I did fix it. But the thing is, would I really want to sell a model like that people have problems with? Because a lot of them, I think, do come out and they're pretty good, but I am still learning, and a lot of my models are made to challenge myself. So because I'm on the edge I'm like constantly doing things that are on the edge of my skill set, they sometimes come out a bit rough. And I love it when people print it and say, hey, this is what's wrong with it. This is what I think could be improved, because then I learned something and whatnot. But I wouldn't feel too great printing out or making a paid system for my models, given that. And then, that's the third reason. But the other two are my bigger ones, I think.
I respect your answer, and I'm not invalidating it. I'll just let you know, though, that unfortunately, as you keep designing things, you're going to keep pushing the envelope, and you'll always be on the edge of your capabilities. Yeah. It'll never feel like you've learned all you need to learn. So
sometimes I do for fun make a real simple one, right? I was thinking of I made a Dragon Quest slime model, and I was thinking it might be fun to make just a really simple one that stacks, right? Because in Dragon Quest is a video game series, and the slime is like the poster child enemy monster, and there are a whole bunch of different forms for it, and there's one form where it's just a stack of 3 of them. And I was thinking, it might be fun to do a remix of my own model and do that, and that would be something that I could. It's not going to be, it's very easy for me, so it's not going to be pushing the envelope, so I could probably just sell it if I really wanted to. I mean, granted, it's not my IP, but I do back up and do some things that are not pushing the envelope. So I was like, I could probably do that. But at the same time, it's like, I don't really want to um, lock it down. I already have a steady source of income. And even like through the points rewards in Maker World, I haven't bought filament or any supplies for my printer, like an effects, build plate or a 0.2 nozzle. All of that was paid for just by the rewards program. So like, I'm not feeling like I still feel like I'm getting more monetarily out of this than I'm putting in, with being able to do everything for free, So
Well,
that's where I'm at.
That's
So
good.
if you want to support me, yeah. So people that are wondering if they want to support me, the best and easiest way is to just like go on Maker World and download something, print it, post a make. Like I get points for people downloading my models, and it's pretty good because printables rewards. I've gotten one. I filled up my Prusa meters reward one time, and I used it on a Fusion 360 class because living in Japan, I think I would still have to pay shipping if I wanted to get a roll of filament from them. So I just said, screw it. I'll just, get this Fusion 360 class, which was nice. But I've gotten the equivalent of one roll of filament from printables, but I've gotten, 12, 13, 14, 15 rolls from Maker World. So yeah, I'm surprised that it's lucrative for them.
Are you aware how many times your classic auto opening Pokeball has been downloaded on Maker World?
Almost 1,000.
Yeah, literally, I'm looking at it right now. 999.
Hey, that was a nice guess.
Yeah, and then I tried to. I tried to download it, but if you want to download the STLs, you can't use the download all button because Bambu Labs wants you to make an account.
No.
Frustrating. So I want it to be your 1,000th download, so I'll just have to do it on printables. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's another thing, like, circling back to the Bambu Lab thing. It's like, on one hand, I understand that. Because their reward system is so lucrative, they want to make sure that every download is synced to an account so that people don't cheat the system. But the flip side of that is, if you want to just download it from Maker World, tough. You need an account. It's like, okay, maybe I don't want an account. Luckily, I upload all of my models. They're the exact same. Hopefully they're the exact same. Sometimes I've forgotten to upload an STL on one site, but not the other.
How could you?
Had parts. Yeah, no, I had someone who's like, this part's not there. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Whoopsies.
But yeah. I mean, I try to have a system that reduces that as much as possible, but things fall through the cracks. But yeah, so you can do that, but it's like, if you don't have a Maker World, it's like, oh, tough nuggets.
It is, yeah.
You can't download it. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that Bambu Labs running into and or is taking advantage of.
So I want to hit a couple more things before we finish. Time has just been flying by. What's with the pumpkin thing? I do see that you have a pumpkin Pokeball, and I do see that a lot of your models you print in orange, so you do have an affinity for the orange. So where does the pumpkin thing come from?
So when I was, I want to say maybe 8th grade, basically there was a series of coincidences where I came upon a whole bunch of orange shirts. So it just so happened that I was wearing orange almost every day. And because of that, people started associating the color with me. And I realized that I really liked the color. That was my favorite color. And so it kind of spiraled from there where for Christmas and birthdays and whatnot, a lot of people would see an orange shirt at the store or whatever. Like I like, Naruto, the anime, right? Okay. Oh, there's an orange Naruto shirt. Carl will like that. And so I literally got enough shirts that I did not have to wear any other color. So now I essentially own only orange shirts. Like I have 5 orange polos up on the, clothesline here beside me. So I can wear, one for each day of the week. So I wear an orange shirt like every day. And so the nickname Pumpkin Man just came from that. And so I rolled with it because I thought it was funny. So that's what it is. I do like pumpkins as well. So that's where it came from. So it's just kind of this fun coincidence that I've leaned into, and it's really handy. Like people can find me in a crowd. I was meeting up with an internet friend, your language exchange partner, on vacation, to just spend the day with them. And I was like, okay, I'll be at the station. I'll be the one wearing the orange hat and shirt. So you don't need to worry. You should be able to find me. So yeah, it's handy and it's nice for branding, I think, as well.
Yeah, I was about to say that you unintentionally
Yeah.
created a brand for yourself.
Yeah. Because like I feel like orange is not as common a color for a lot of people, like as a favorite color, or it is kind of bright and stands out. There's a really humorous picture one of my coworkers sent to me where I went to like one of the middle school's concert, right? And it was a picture, and this was still like late pandemic, so all the chairs are spread out, so you can see every individual person. And there's a picture taken from the balcony of the stage and the audience, and all these people are wearing like dark colors, and then you can just see me sticking out like a sore thumb because I'm wearing this bright orange coat, or bright orange shirt, whatever I was wearing right there. And it's just humorous how much I stand out, especially here, because in Japan there's much more compared to America. There's much more of a fitting in rather than standing out culture. So yeah, I get stares.
Yeah, I watched the
But
Fast and
it's fun.
Furious. You're a gaijin over there.
A gaijin, yes.
There we
I'm a
go.
foreigner.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I have a question I ask every one of my guests. Do you mind if I throw it to you?
sure. And then I have one little thing afterwards that I want to ask you.
Sure.
We
Oh,
won't talk too long.
you can ask me now if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to ask the electronics question. So one thing that I wanted to do, or that I have done, is I made a thing for my live streams. I also stream on Twitch. Just play games. Nothing too in depth, but I made a thing with where I wanted to use a remote control and an RGB light to have kind of like a disco ball type effect, where you can 3D print a sphere to cover the RGB light, and then you shine the light from the bottom, and it projects shapes onto your wall. Now, what I did was I put a motor. The idea was to put a motor and attach it to the sphere and spin it. And I wanted the motor to be a variable speed. Now, I know nothing about electronics. So picture this circuit, right? You got a switch, and the switch is attached to an RGB light, which I just cannibalized from some, touch lamp from Amazon. And then and it's also attached to a motor. Now, in order to control the speed of the motor, I want you to tell me if this is a good idea or not. I put a potentiometer and attached it up to there so that you could adjust the resistance of the current flowing through the motor. It was a variable speed motor. Is that how you would do that? Is that the simplest way to do that, or is that an effective way to do that?
So it depends. The problem with a potentiometer is they're generally low power devices. So if your
this
motor,
is a 15 volt USB, or what? Yeah, USB is 15 volt, right?
USB is
Whatever.
5 volts.
5 volt. Or It's been a while since I did this, so but 5 volts. So yeah.
So if your motor draws, too much current, like let's say a potentiometer maybe is rated for like, I don't know, a quarter watt or something like that. Quarter watt at 5 volts. We can do the math real quick. P equals EI. I have to tell myself every time or else I forget. So let's say 0.25 divided by 5 volts. Yeah, so you've got like 50 milliamps of current. So 0.05 amps of current you can pull through the potentiometer. So if your motor wants to pull more than that, you're going to burn the potentiometer. So
the thing I ran into was I didn't know how to approach what range of potentiometer that I should get to make a smooth thing. Because the one, I just kind of spitballed it. And what I have going right now, it's 3/4 of it is just too high resistance so that the motor stops completely. And then the last quarter of it, you can kind of, control. So that was my problem, I think, is that the resistance, the max resistance on the potentiometer was just too high. And the other problem is I don't even know if what I'm saying right here is correct or along the right lines, or so that's the thing.
You're headed in the right
I don't even know where to
direction.
look.
You're definitely
Yeah.
headed in the right direction. So usually like 5-volt, like USB gadgets, they use like universal DC motors. And those universal DC motors are typically rated, to run between 3 volts and 12 volts, for example. It'll be written on the side of the motor. Sometimes you'll see a voltage that's like the max voltage. So the issue is with your 5 volts coming in, you're probably at the lower range of that motor's functioning to start with. And then your potentiometer is adding way too much resistance. So it's using up, I tell my students, like the voltage in a circuit is like a hamburger, right? But if you have 2 resistances, like your motor is one, and then second, your potentiometer is the other, they each have to share that hamburger. So if your potentiometer has too much resistance, it's eating all of the hamburger. Essentially, there's nothing left for the motor.
Yeah.
So
which is good if you want to stop it, right?
If you want to stop it, yeah.
Yeah, but when the whole thing, 3/4 of the thing eats the entire hamburger, so to speak, that's not good.
Exactly. So the good news is there are specific circuits that you can buy off the shelf to drive motors. They're just called like motor drivers. And you essentially, the potentiometer on a motor driver is a electronic signal. So it just tells the microcontroller inside the motor driver how fast you want the motor to go, and then it'll limit the voltage to the motor and control it like that. And you can get a little bit fancier one, which will use a PWM signal. So essentially, it's like flipping a light switch on and off. If you flip a light switch on for a second, and then off for a second, and then on for a second, then off for a second, on average, your lights are on half the time. Yeah, so your room will be half bright if you do that really fast.
Yeah. Well, because it can go faster than your eyes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can get a PWM motor driver. The motor drivers are really, like, driving a motor is relatively simple, but the issue is that there's a lot of like static friction. Like there's like it takes quite a bit of current to get a motor started, but once it's started, it's easy to keep it going. So that's why motor driving is a little bit complex. So you're dipping your toes in the right field, but it's not as simple as a potentiometer when we're talking about a motor versus like a light bulb.
Yeah. So, because the other problems I ran into were, one, it was a touch lamp. So like, right, it turns on and off based off of capacitance, right? So if you touch the thing, so it would randomly turn itself off. Because I guess, something was touching it or whatever, or maybe the current wasn't steady. I'm not entirely sure. But it randomly turned itself off sometimes. And I have no idea why. It did it before the capacitance like thing plate was on it, and then I took it off, hoping that would fix it, and it had the exact same problem. I don't know why, but I also managed to make it so that one of the RGB lights, like the green light, wouldn't light up or something, or the blue one. I don't know what happened there. I wouldn't be surprised if I touched the wrong thing with a soldering iron and fried it or something. Or maybe I connected something up to the wrong thing, and because obviously I was ripping it out of a thing on Amazon, like an Amazon. It wasn't like a kit. It was a light touch lamp from Amazon that I pulled the guts out of. The other thing was, for whatever reason, the gear ratio. I had it's a really big ratio. I had a really big gear turned by the motor connected to a really small gear that turned the lampshade type thing.
Oh boy.
So
okay.
So I don't know what the heck I was thinking when I did that, but because of that, it was moving real fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was because I only had a quarter of that potentiometer to do it. Like the speed was like nothing, super fast. And I'm like, okay, And like I was observing what you were saying with the motor before, where I had to turn on and then wind it down to what I wanted. Yeah. So, but I was wondering, I was looking over Bambu Lab again. They've got a maker list thing where they've got kits and motors and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if I could find stuff on their website. What you can do is you can select those things and put them as part of your 3D model. As your post on there. So for example, to explain this in more simpler terms, I play Legend of Zelda, right? Nintendo fan. There's this rock in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that's called a luminous stone. It's a normal looking rock during the day, but at night it glows in the dark. And so I said, that would be cool. I downloaded the 3D model file off of some 3D model website. That would be cool if I could make a lamp out of that. So what I did was I took Bambu Labs lamp kit. It's this little like hockey puck size. There you go. I'll do a Canadian analogy here. The little hockey puck sized lamp, and you press the button, it turns on. Press the button again, it turns off. Right? It's real simple. But that's all you get. But you can 3D print like a little something to put on it to project the light out more softly, or like I don't know what you call it.
To diffuse it.
Diffuse the light. Thank you. So it can diffuse the light. So you can, there's a lot of models you can find on Maker World that it has the 3D printable parts, but in the bill of materials on the bottom, you can select things from Bambu Labs website, which is really cool, I think. So you can get a luminous stone lamp. I printed out of like a glow-in-the-dark filament, where what you do is the switch is inside the thing, so you touch the top, and then it turns on, and then you touch the top again, and then it turns off. But I was wondering if I could... I saw there were motors and stuff on there. I was wondering if I could find things and make the disco light thing, stream lighting thing, and include only Bambu Lab parts. Then I could potentially upload that for other people to tinker around with, and you could 3D print your own lampshades to put on, and that could be another thing where I, upload it and let people make their own creations. That's one of the things that, if you haven't figured out, I really love doing.
You definitely can. So I'm just looking on the Maker Supply section now. They have a USB motor. It's $7 Canadian, I'm seeing here. But they only have one device to control the speed of a motor, and that is the USB speed controller. And so as long as you're okay with using that part, I think that would be the simplest thing, because it would do the motor driving for you. You would just like ramp it up or ramp it down type thing.
Yeah.
So
no, just need to connect. I saw they had RGB lights too as well there, and I would just need to connect that.
You need like a hub probably, to connect more than one USB device. You got to be careful too, because the USB spec only supports half an amp of current. You can get...
I don't want to fry anything.
Yeah, so if you plug it into your computer, you'll get about half an amp. If you plug it into like a wall charger, you can get up to 2. But I mean, it's whether or not you'll get up to 2 will depend on the quality of your charger. But yeah, so if you look at that part I sent you on Discord, you'd probably be able to use that and their USB motor. The USB motor has a gearbox integrated into it, so it'll probably be speed reduced, which means it'll work even better. And then, those two parts together, then you make your lampshade. They have LEDs as well, and then you should be off to the races.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a big fan.
In the loop whenever I do it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like buying stuff directly from the suppliers and from AliExpress, although that's not the most environmental option. But I think you could make yourself something with only their parts, and then the benefit is that it's going to be, like you said, really easy for people to make the stuff that
Yeah.
you've designed, which is great.
And side note, for people clicking on links from other regions for Bambu Lab, I don't know about if it works like this for other people, but I clicked on the Canadian link and it says, "Oh, page not found."
Oh,
You
no.
just have to go on the upper right and then switch from Japan to Canada, and then it'll show up.
Oh, gotcha.
So
there you go. So at least now you have the Japanese or the equivalent you can look up on your Japanese site.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There we go.
So I really like that.
Did that answer your question a little bit?
Probably.
Okay.
I would assume so.
So what you can do, and what I offer most my podcast guests, is that if you need me for anything, just you know how to reach me now. You can ask me the question whenever you want.
Yeah. I've got a lot of things on my list of things to do. I posted, recently I was talking about I'm printing out the Pokemon coins that you mentioned earlier, but I'm making them real fancy. I got a 0.2 millimeter nozzle, and I'm printing them out in different sizes on an effect plate with 4 to 5 different colors, and that's been taking a long time, and it's really been bottlenecking my workflow. But once those are done, then it's off to the races. I think I can switch back to my 0.4 and start printing stuff out, because I've got a lot of things fully printed and videos fully edited, just waiting on the final steps to upload everything.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic to see, because I saw those coins. They're like multicolor coins, and they look really good. So
yeah.
I can't wait to see what comes out of your lab.
Yeah, and I was thinking another time, it's pretty easy to make. I was thinking about just uploading a video about exactly how I made it, right? So if other people want to do it, and to take it even a step farther, I posted recently, and a few people seem interested. I wanted to try. Are you familiar with a game jam? Like what a game jam is?
I think I know the concept from coding in general, like where
you kind of like a hackathon.
Yeah, hackathon. There we go.
Yeah, game jam, hackathon, right? You have a time limit. Maybe you have I think a hackathon is more work on whatever you want. But like a game jam is usually with a theme. Just make a game in this, as good a game as you can. I wanted to do that, but with 3D models one of these times. Let's get a bunch of people together, throw a theme on there, say, okay, Saturday, whatever, 24-hour period, make as good of a 3D model as you can. And whether it be a contest or just for fun, to see what people can make, to try to push people's boundaries and see how creative you can get within the restrictions. I wanted to do that. And I was wondering, not sure how many people would be down with the whole Pokemon theme, but I was thinking a good way to start it out, especially for the people that were expressing that they weren't the best 3D modelers, would be to just make a Pokemon coin design, or maybe just a coin design in general. Because all it is taking an image and extruding it out and assigning, separating each color out and extruding it out and whatnot. I thought maybe that would be a good first thing to do. But in general, I've kind of wanted to do a model jam. So we'll see if I get that together. Comment down below if you're interested.
Yeah, and we can chat a little bit after the pod, because I have some ideas for you that might make it a little easier to come for reality,
Yeah. Okay. Definitely.
All right. Let me ask you my question now. So, if you get a grant to start the business of your dreams, it doesn't have to be profitable because you've got grant money.
Funded,
but it has to provide a service or a product. What kind of business would you start?
Oh my God, that is a lovely question. So my first thoughts are that as a teacher, I would want my business. I'm going to kind of answer this kind of in a meta way. I think I would want to make a business that does kind of exactly what the question you're asking does. Like, I would want to support other people's cool ideas. So let's just say in the 3D printing space, we keep it small for now. since I haven't had a lot of time to think about this. I would want to be kind of like a Shark Tank investor type deal where I would provide people with a makerspace or funding and whatnot to make their ideas into fruition. So if someone had an idea, for example, here's a good one. I want someone to make an easy to put together machine, or kind of a pre-made machine that could grind up failed prints or support material, whatever, and make new rolls of filament out of it. Because right now in the space, they do exist, but they're usually kits, and they're usually really finicky, and you got to tinker with them a lot.
And they're very expensive.
And they're very expensive, right? So if someone, I would want to be oversight for and or investment in people, someone with that idea, right? I would be the kind of person who would support the Voron project or whatever, because as it is right now, that's kind of what I want to do, just without, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, just without the money part, right? I'm trying to, if you want to learn how to model, maybe try out this making your own custom Pokeball. Here, if you want to get into 3D printing, maybe make this coin. I've got this box that you can put into Fusion 360, enter in the dimensions, and print out your very own box, just to kind of get used to Fusion 360. All of these things that I'm doing that are trying to get people into the space that's what I want to do. Because especially coming from America, one of its many problems right now is, without dabbling too into the political side of things, but the education system. College is very, very expensive. University is very, very expensive in America. And I think that's such a tragedy and so counterintuitive, because getting kids interested in making things and making the world a better place is inherently valuable, in my opinion. And I think we don't, as a society, support that enough. I think colleges being something that's extremely expensive, on one hand, yes, if you look at it from one perspective, it makes a lot of sense that, hey, going to college will do a lot for you, so therefore it should cost a lot of money. That makes sense. But when you look at it the other direction, hey, going to college does a lot for the country, society, the world. And from that perspective, I don't think it should be expensive at all. I feel like there is a lot of talent and a lot of potential being wasted today because we cut a lot of programs that encourage creativity, and college is so dang expensive, and education in general is so dang expensive, that a lot of people just don't feel like they have the environment to be creative. So that's kind of the business I would do. I would provide funding and research and whatnot, and oversight and consulting and whatnot for people to make cool things. Because I want to use those cool things, and I'm just one guy, and I don't have any formal training. Maybe one day I'll get some, but I can't make everything and research everything that I want to have myself, and I want to rely on other people. So that's what I would do.
100%, and very well said. As an educator, I agree with pretty much everything you said, and I find myself wishing that I had the skills to contribute to the open source projects that I believe in. I have nor the skills nor the funding for it, but if I did, I mean, you could be sure that I'd be some sort of anonymous donor to, like KeyCAD, which is the software I use to make my PCBs, and to FreeCAD, which is the software that I'm hoping I'm going to be using to make all my models from now on and stuff like that. So yeah, very well said. Definitely.
Because I don't know, I know 3D printing now. I don't know electronics. I don't know coding. That's one of the things that I really wanted to do was, I stream on Twitch. I thought it'd be cool if you sync with whatever API, and if someone donates or whatever, if someone subscribes or someone follows, then it automatically turns on the lamp and spins it around or whatever. That would be cool. And I've seen other people who do coding online, like other streamers who know how to code, do things where things that happen through Twitch's API directly correlate to things on the stream and or real life. And that's like, could I have minored in, computer engineering? Probably. My dad's a software engineer, I probably should have done that.
I hate to say it, but probably ChatGPT will get you about 95% of the way there.
Yeah. No, I have some coding with ChatGPT. I did a couple years back. Yeah, 2 years ago, or 23. My New Year's resolution was to do a new YouTube video a week. And I got to September. I just did not have time to put, the time that I wanted to into it.
Yeah, it's pretty good making it to September, though.
Yeah. You can see there's a couple videos where you're like, the graphic didn't pop up when he gestured to it because I just did not have the time to do the final pass. But one of the things I did was like, I wanted to make a statistics thing where in a fighting game you could enter in how good each character is against other characters, and then you enter in your favorite character, and then it will do the statistics to analyze, okay, if you like this character, then you should try playing this character too, because this secondary character is good against the characters that are good against your main character. And 95% of the way there, I did get ChatGPT to do it. But then I just consulted with my dad.
Yeah, fair. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, he did the last 5%. So thanks, Dad.
So let's say people are listening to you on the podcast.
Yeah.
And they will. And
hopefully.
They jive with sort of like your mentality that they love that you're an educator. They love that you design stuff. They love that you give it away for free. They love that you like supporting people. So how do they support you? Because as far as I know, you don't have a Patreon. Where do people go if you really want them to support you?
So I have a Ko-Fi, and that will be in the link tree in the description. But if you want to support me non-monetarily, one of the best things to do is, if you've got a MakerWorld account, download and print my models and post makes and post reviews of the 3D print profiles that I have. For the last year or so, I have not purchased a single 3D printer supply item directly because I've got everything through points through MakerWorld. So if you don't have the money, absolutely fine. I just gave a whole rant about how education should be free. So I definitely do not care if you don't want to support me monetarily. But yeah, download things from MakerWorld if you can.
Can I make a? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and of course, if you want to chat, like comment on anything, anywhere. I have a Twitch stream where I just play video games. At CarlThePumpkinMan. I'm pretty much CarlThePumpkinMan everywhere. So if you want to chat about something, I am currently not popular there at all. So you will probably have me all to yourself. You'll just have to deal with me, translating a game in Japanese or whatever while I'm chatting with you.
So if I could add something, if I may.
Okay.
Most of my viewers don't really care about video games. But I want to make a small plea to them, because when I'm trying to be productive, I'm trying to make a circuit board, I'm trying to edit a video, I need something playing on my second monitor or on the TV in the background. And what I've found has been better for my concentration and better for that background noise is to go inside of a Twitch streamer's stream and just semi-follow what they're doing. Like I don't have to be super invested. Like when you have a movie, you don't have to follow the plot when it's a Twitch streamer. I think Twitch streamers are the best people to have on the second monitor. And then when you do feel like interacting, it's right there. The chat is right there. Yeah. And as someone who streams from time to time, not on Twitch but on YouTube, I'll just tell you, if you're at home and if you're wondering, how can I have an impact today? Being in the stream of a small streamer is one of the most encouraging things that you could do to that streamer. It's like the biggest kindness you can do, because there's nothing worse than shouting into a void. So, even if you're not actively watching, even if you're just sort of, semi watching, I would recommend that people go onto Twitch or onto YouTube Live, find a small streamer and hang out in there. And who knows, you'll probably like it.
Yeah. And hey, if you are someone who likes Twitch and is looking for an active small streamer, you like that smaller community, I have been streaming regularly on and off since I got laid off from my student job in the pandemic 4 years ago. And I don't have any plans to stop anytime soon. So I would give you the schedule, but it's all in Japan time. So you might have to take a look at that. It's only when I got things like recording podcasts that I shift things around.
I've got people listening all over the world, and a lot of them are makers, a lot of them are programmers. So, sleeping schedules, that's not our strong suit. So they'll probably find you live at some point.
Yeah. And if you go there, the schedule is there, and it should be adjusted to your times, to your time zone as well. So that should tell you. I've got an early morning stream and a later at night stream. So someone somewhere, I should be live when you're awake, probably.
So do you have any final thoughts? I mean, you have my audience captive here. Any final little things you want to say?
Ooh. Here's my plea, my one last plea to anyone. So like I said before, on Thingiverse Printables and Maker World, I've got the editable Pokeball base. That's what it's called. No one has uploaded their own custom Pokeball or their own, rendition of an already existing Pokeball. So if someone wants something to do and they want to do that and upload it, and mark it as a remix there, so I know that you did, that would absolutely make my day. Anyone wants a challenge?
There we go. Any cat enthusiasts, if you want a challenge, go and make a remix. And I'll add a little bit to your plea. For those of you who don't care at all about Pokemon, Carl has a model that is an eyeball. So it's not a Pokeball. It's a sphere with, an iris and a pupil and some nice big red veins. And I think it would look great in, all you weirdos' workshops.
Yeah. And you press the button. Oh my God. You press the button, it opens up. And you can put random crud in there. Who knows?
There we go. So I want to thank you so much for your time, taking time out of your busy schedule and it
was fun.
Joining me in Canada all the way from Japan.
Yeah. A little dose of back home then.
And I would encourage everyone listening to go check the links in the description, the link tree in the description as well. Go have a look. Carl's stuff is really well made. It looks very good. The videos are very interesting because a lot of the videos are almost like a slice of life Japan kind of stuff. I know on his Instagram, there's like a lot of Japanese food and stuff. So if you want to go take a look, hit subscribe, hit follow. It always helps creators. But even more than that, like leave a comment. If you see something you like, leave a comment and check out.
I don't get comments. I'll respond.
Yeah, there we go. So check out
I'll respond.
Check out the 3D printable files. They're all free. And if you make one, post it on social media and tag him in it, especially on Blue Sky. You seem to be very active on Blue Sky.
Yep. Twitter, no one was responding on Twitter, and then Blue Sky came around. And that's a lot more people that are actually real and not trying to get money on there. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I like Blue Sky.
So thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast, and I'm going to catch you all on the next one.
Bye.